Most men think emotional attraction begins with romantic words, constant texting, or obvious flirting, but that's rarely how genuine emotional connection develops. In many cases, the strongest signs appear long before a woman ever admits how she feels. They're hidden in small habits, quiet conversations, and subtle changes in the way she treats you. The problem is that these signals are so natural that most people overlook them completely. Today's video isn't about manipulation, dating tricks, or secret formulas to make someone fall in love. Instead, we're exploring real psychological behaviors that can appear when a woman begins to feel emotionally safe and genuinely connected to someone. Remember, no single behavior can confirm romantic feelings on its own. Every person is unique, and healthy relationships are built on communication, trust, and mutual respect. But when several of these behaviors appear consistently over time, they may reveal that an emotional bond is becoming stronger. So if you've ever been confused by mixed signals or wondered whether her actions mean more than her words, stay with me until the end. Some of the most powerful signs of emotional attachment are incredibly subtle, and once you understand them, you'll start noticing the difference between temporary attention and genuine emotional investment. Have you ever noticed how some people slowly become part of your future without either of you making a formal decision? One of the strongest signs of emotional attachment is not dramatic love confessions or constant romantic gestures. Instead, it often appears in the smallest, most natural conversations. A woman who is becoming emotionally invested may begin to speak as if your presence in her future is already expected. This doesn't mean she has planned every detail of her life around you, nor does it guarantee a relationship. Rather, it reflects a growing sense of comfort, trust, and emotional security that makes including you feel effortless. Human beings naturally imagine the future with the people who matter most to them. And when someone starts appearing in those mental pictures repeatedly, it usually reveals an important emotional shift. You might notice this during ordinary conversations. She may mention a movie coming out months from now and casually say, "We should watch that." She could talk about visiting a new city someday and immediately imagine you experiencing it together. Perhaps she discusses the holidays and naturally assumes you'll be around, or she jokes about something the two of you will laugh about next year. None of these comments may seem significant on their own, but together they reveal a pattern. She is beginning to see you as a consistent part of her life, rather than someone who exists only in the present moment. Psychologists often describe emotional attachment as a process where another person becomes integrated into our mental world. Instead of viewing life as completely separate, our brain gradually includes someone else's presence in our everyday expectations. This is why future-oriented language can be meaningful. It isn't about making promises. It's about how naturally someone's mind begins to create space for another person. When this happens, planning no longer feels forced. It simply feels normal. Another important detail is that this behavior usually develops without conscious intention. She may not even realize how often she says we instead of I. That's because emotional attachment often grows quietly. Before someone openly admits deep feelings, their everyday language and habits may already reveal that emotional connection is taking shape. People rarely monitor every word they use in relaxed conversations, which is why these small moments can sometimes be more revealing than carefully prepared romantic speeches. However, it's important not to misunderstand this behavior. Including someone in future conversations does not automatically mean they are in love. Some people naturally speak in an inclusive way because they enjoy making plans with friends or because they have an outgoing personality. Context always matters. What makes this behavior meaningful is consistency. If she repeatedly imagines future experiences with you, actively follows through on those ideas, and continues investing time and attention in the connection, those actions together paint a much clearer picture than a single conversation ever could. Healthy emotional attachment is also built on mutual effort. If only one person is imagining a shared future while the other remains emotionally distant, the relationship can become unbalanced. Genuine emotional closeness grows when both people gradually invest in each other's lives. They become curious about each other's goals, celebrate achievements together, support one another through challenges, and slowly build memories that strengthen the connection over time. There is another reason this behavior is significant. When someone starts imagining you in their future, they are often expressing trust. The future is uncertain, and including another person in it requires emotional openness. It means they believe your presence brings comfort rather than stress. They feel safe enough to picture you beside them during important moments, whether those moments are exciting, ordinary, or even difficult. That emotional safety forms the foundation of lasting relationships because people naturally move toward those who make them feel secure. Instead of looking for dramatic signs or trying to decode every message she sends, pay attention to patterns that develop naturally over time. Listen carefully to how she talks about upcoming experiences, long-term goals, and everyday plans. Observe whether her actions match her words. Does she make room for you in her schedule? Does she remember conversations about future plans? Does she genuinely enjoy creating experiences together? Consistency always speaks louder than isolated moments. Most importantly, avoid treating these behaviors as proof that someone is already yours. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, open communication, and individual choice. Emotional attachment is not ownership. It is a growing willingness to share life's journey with another person. When a woman naturally includes you in her vision of the future, it may simply be a sign that she values your presence and feels emotionally connected. If that connection continues to grow through honesty, trust, kindness, and shared experiences, it can become the foundation of a meaningful and lasting relationship built by two people who freely choose each other every day. One of the clearest signs that a woman is becoming emotionally connected is when she no longer feels the need to appear perfect around you. In the early stages of getting to know someone, it's natural for people to present the best version of themselves. They carefully choose their words, hide their insecurities, and try to avoid showing flaws. But as emotional trust develops, that protective wall slowly begins to come down. She becomes more comfortable being herself, knowing she doesn't have to impress you every moment. You may notice that she starts sharing things she normally keeps private. She might talk about a mistake she regrets, a fear she has never mentioned before, or a difficult experience that shaped her. Instead of pretending everything is fine, she becomes honest about her bad days, her stress, or the moments when she feels uncertain. This kind of openness isn't a sign of weakness. It often reflects emotional safety. People usually reveal their vulnerable side only when they believe the other person will respond with understanding instead of judgment. Trust grows through acceptance. When someone feels they can be authentic without worrying about being criticized or rejected, the emotional connection naturally becomes stronger. That's why genuine intimacy is built less on perfection and more on honesty. A woman who feels emotionally secure around you doesn't need to wear a mask all the time. She knows she can laugh at herself, admit when she's wrong, and express emotions without feeling embarrassed. At the same time, it's important not to assume that vulnerability automatically means romantic love. Some people are naturally open with close friends and trusted family members. Emotional openness should always be understood within the context of the overall relationship. The strongest indicator is consistency. If she repeatedly trusts you with personal thoughts, values your opinion, and feels comfortable being her true self around you, it suggests that the emotional bond is becoming deeper over time. If you notice this kind of trust, the best response is not to take it for granted, but to protect it. Listen carefully without interrupting. Avoid judging her experiences and never use her vulnerable moments against her during disagreements. Emotional safety is built when both people know their honesty will be respected. The more kindness, patience, and understanding you bring into those conversations, the stronger the connection can become. In healthy relationships, Real closeness begins when two people stop trying to be perfect and start feeling safe enough to simply be themselves. One of the most overlooked signs of growing emotional attachment is the way a woman begins to pay attention to the small details about you. Grand romantic gestures often get the spotlight, but genuine emotional connection is usually built through everyday moments that many people fail to notice. When someone starts remembering the little things that matter to you, it often shows that your presence has become meaningful in her life. This isn't because she is forcing herself to memorize information. It happens naturally when someone genuinely cares. She may remember your favorite coffee order, the song you always play during long drives, or the hobby that helps you relax after a stressful day. She might ask how an important meeting went because she remembered you mentioning it weeks earlier. If you once shared that you dislike crowded places or enjoy watching sunsets, she may quietly keep those details in mind when making plans. These actions may seem simple, but they often reflect emotional attention rather than ordinary conversation. Psychologically, people tend to remember information that carries emotional value. When someone becomes emotionally invested, their brain naturally gives more importance to details connected to that person. Instead of forgetting small conversations, they begin storing them because those moments matter. This doesn't mean every detail will be remembered perfectly, but it does mean your experiences, opinions, and preferences become more significant to them over time. Another interesting sign is that she starts checking in about the things that matter to you without being reminded. If you mentioned an interview, an exam, a family event, or a personal goal, she may ask about it later because she genuinely wants to know how things turned out. This type of follow-up shows that she wasn't simply listening to reply, she was listening because she cared. In healthy relationships, feeling heard is one of the strongest foundations of emotional intimacy. However, it's important not to interpret every thoughtful action as proof of romantic feelings. Some people naturally have excellent memories and enjoy caring for the people around them. The key is to look for a consistent pattern rather than a single moment. If she regularly remembers important details, supports your goals, and makes an effort to understand your personality, it may indicate that your emotional importance in her life is continuing to grow. If someone gives you this level of attention, appreciate it by offering the same in return. Healthy emotional connections are built on mutual interest, not one-sided effort. Remember the things that matter to her, listen with genuine curiosity, and value the conversations you share. When both people feel understood, respected, and remembered, trust grows naturally, creating a relationship that is based on real emotional connection rather than temporary attraction. Many people believe that emotional attachment is measured by how often someone texts, calls, or wants to spend every minute together. In reality, one of the strongest signs of a deep emotional connection is not constant attention, but meaningful emotional presence. A woman who is becoming emotionally invested doesn't always expect endless conversations throughout the day. Instead, she begins to value the quality of your connection more than the quantity of your interactions. She wants to know that when life becomes difficult, you are someone she can genuinely rely on. You may notice that during stressful moments, she chooses to talk to you before anyone else. Whether she has had a challenging day at work, a disagreement with a friend, or simply feels emotionally overwhelmed, your presence starts bringing her a sense of comfort. She isn't looking for someone to solve every problem. Often, she simply wants someone who listens, understands, and makes her feel emotionally supported. That kind of trust develops over time and cannot be created through forced communication. Another sign is that she values your opinion on decisions that matter to her. She may ask for your perspective before making an important choice or share exciting news because your reaction genuinely means something to her. This doesn't mean she depends on you to make decisions for her. Instead, it shows that your thoughts have become important because she respects your judgment and values your place in her life. Emotional presence also means feeling comfortable in silence. Not every meaningful moment requires constant conversation. Sometimes, two people who share a strong emotional bond can simply enjoy each other's company without feeling pressure to fill every quiet moment with words. That level of comfort often reflects security rather than distance. When someone feels emotionally safe, they don't need continuous reassurance to know the connection is still there. At the same time, it's important to avoid confusing emotional presence with emotional dependence. Healthy relationships encourage both people to maintain their individuality, friendships, and personal goals. A strong emotional bond supports independence instead of replacing it. The healthiest connections are built when two emotionally secure people choose to support each other while continuing to grow as individuals. If you notice that she consistently turns to you during important moments, values your perspective, and feels peaceful simply spending time with you, it may suggest that the emotional connection is becoming deeper. The best way to strengthen that bond is by being reliable, listening with genuine attention, respecting her feelings, and showing consistency through your actions. Emotional presence is not about always having the perfect words. It is about making someone feel seen, heard, and valued whenever they need you most. As emotional attachment grows, a noticeable change often takes place in the way a woman handles disagreements and challenges within the connection. In the beginning, misunderstandings can feel like reasons to walk away. But when someone truly values the relationship, their focus gradually shifts from proving a point to protecting the bond itself. Instead of allowing small conflicts to create distance, they begin looking for ways to understand each other and restore harmony. This change is often a sign that the connection has become emotionally important. You may notice that she becomes more willing to communicate rather than ignore problems. If something bothers her, she may choose to discuss it calmly instead of letting resentment build. Rather than playing games or expecting you to guess how she feels, she makes an effort to express her emotions honestly. This kind of communication shows maturity because healthy relationships are strengthened through openness, not silence. Another important behavior is her willingness to resolve misunderstandings instead of winning every argument. In emotionally secure relationships, both people understand that being right is less important than protecting mutual respect. She may apologize when she realizes she made a mistake, and she appreciates it when you do the same. This doesn't mean she avoids difficult conversations. It simply means that her goal is to solve the problem together instead of turning each disagreement into a competition. You might also notice that she becomes more thoughtful about how her actions affect the relationship. Before making decisions, she considers whether they will create unnecessary tension or strengthen the connection. This doesn't mean she sacrifices her own needs or opinions. Instead, it reflects emotional responsibility, the ability to care about both her feelings and the health of the relationship at the same time. Of course, every relationship experiences disagreements. Conflict itself is not a sign that something is wrong. In fact, respectful conflict can help two people understand each other better. What truly matters is how both people respond afterward. Do they communicate with honesty? Do they listen without immediately becoming defensive? Are they willing to forgive, learn, and move forward together? These habits are often stronger indicators of emotional attachment than never arguing at all. If you recognize this behavior, respond with the same level of maturity. Listen carefully, avoid reacting with anger or disrespect, and focus on finding solutions instead of assigning blame. When both people consistently protect the connection through patience, understanding, and honest communication, trust grows stronger over time. A relationship becomes lasting, not because it is free from problems, but because both individuals care enough to work through those problems together with respect and emotional commitment. One of the most reliable signs of growing emotional attachment is when a woman's actions consistently match her words. Anyone can express affection through compliments or romantic messages, but genuine emotional investment is usually revealed through consistent behavior over time. When someone truly values a connection, they don't just say they care, they demonstrate it through small, repeated actions that build trust. Consistency creates emotional security, and emotional security is one of the strongest foundations of a healthy relationship. You may notice that she checks in on you without expecting anything in return. She remembers important events in your life, asks how your day went, and follows up on conversations you had days or even weeks earlier. If you are facing a difficult situation, she doesn't disappear when life becomes complicated. Instead, she offers support in whatever way she can, even if it's simply listening without judgment. These actions often carry far more meaning than dramatic declarations because they show dependable care rather than temporary emotion. Another powerful sign is reliability. If she says she will call, she usually does. If she promises to meet you, she makes an honest effort to keep that commitment. Of course, unexpected situations happen and no one is perfect. The difference is that emotionally invested people communicate openly when plans change instead of leaving the other person confused or ignored. Reliability isn't about never making mistakes. It's about showing respect through consistent communication and follow through. Consistency also appears in the way she treats you across different situations. She doesn't become warm only when everything is going well and distant whenever life becomes stressful. While everyone has difficult days, her overall attitude remains caring, respectful, and genuine. Emotional attachment is steady, not unpredictable. You don't constantly have to question where you stand because her behavior provides clarity over time. It's equally important to remember that consistency should exist on both sides of the relationship. Healthy emotional connections are built through mutual effort, not one person carrying all the responsibility. If you appreciate her loyalty and dependable nature, respond with the same level of honesty, respect, and commitment. Trust grows strongest when both people know they can rely on each other through good times and difficult moments alike. Finally, avoid judging the relationship based on a single grand gesture or one emotional conversation. Lasting emotional attachment is revealed through patterns, not isolated events. Look at how she behaves over weeks and months, rather than focusing on one particular day. When her actions repeatedly reflect kindness, reliability, respect, and genuine concern for your well-being, it may be a sign that the emotional bond is becoming deeper. In the end, words can create hope, but consistent actions are what create lasting trust, meaningful connection, and the foundation for a relationship that can continue to grow over time.